Race Relations in Northern Ireland, Past, Present and Future, an MME Matters video and podcast series from the Migrant and Minority Ethnic Council. Part 3, Histories, with Denise Wright of the South Belfast Roundtable, Nisha Tandon OBE of Arts ECTA, and Anna Lowe MBE, a former MLA. Presented by Maurice McCartney.
I'm Denise Wright. I'm the Race Relations Coordinator at South Belfast Roundtable. We deliver a lot of training. We have Belfast Friendship Club and we coordinate the Refugee and Asylum Forum.
Yeah, and you've been working on these issues for a long time, as I know personally.
I've been working on these issues probably for over 20 years now in one capacity or another.
So you've built up a good bit of experience, and I suppose that's, well, one of the things we're going to talk about. But just before that, I wonder if you could maybe set out the sort of historical context. I know you've been looking at the history of different waves of immigration. Yeah. Maybe you could quickly sketch out that history.
Well, I suppose this island has normally been a place that exports people rather than receives them. But when we get to the end of the 19th century, we see a very small but significant group of Jewish people arriving into Belfast. And then as we go into the 1930s, we see the Indian community arriving. Because they're part of the British Empire, they have the right to be within the UK. And then later in the 1960s, our Hong Kong Cantonese-speaking Chinese community arrived. And then I suppose we had the Troubles, we had conflict, we had a poor economy, we had terrible weather, still do, and we saw very few people arriving. And we also have to remember our geographical situation at the very edge of Europe, not an easy place to get to. In 2004, we saw not only the expansion of the European Union with 10 countries joining, including the A8 Central Eastern European countries, but we also had a lot of Indian and Filipino people arriving, invited by the government to work within our health service. And so we went from very little diversity to quite a lot of diversity in a very short time. Statistics from last year show that we had about 22,000 Polish people and 12,000 Lithuanians in Northern Ireland. And so, across the past 16 years, we have seen a real peak in migration. I don't believe we'll ever see that again in my lifetime, but it goes from very little until probably around 2007, where we see a very significant decrease, down to about 2013, and then an increase again. And of course, across that time, we have lots of non-EU people arriving, taking up work in academia, in the health service, in IT, engineering, all contributing to our economy. And alongside that, since 2015 until last year, we had over 1,800 Syrian refugees arriving and being resettled right across Northern Ireland. So what we have now is a Northern Ireland that's incredibly diverse, with people from a very wide range of backgrounds. And we have an increasing number of people coming to seek asylum. I know during the COVID crisis that the response for the refugee and asylum community was serving 1,200 people in Belfast who are in the system. Not all have come in the past year because it takes time to get your case heard. And so we are increasingly diverse. We're certainly not as diverse as other parts of Europe, and we're not as diverse as the south of Ireland or GB, but it brings a whole range of benefits, but it also brings challenges, both for people who are already here and probably even more so for the people who are arriving.
Yes, Maurice, I have been living in Northern Ireland for 43 years.
Well, I came here in 1974, really still at the height of the Troubles in Northern Ireland.
I am not born and brought up here. I came very much an immigrant who came and settled here through arranged marriage, and had a lot of arts background from back home. I had done National School of Drama, and I had a little bit of history and geography and all those sort of things, and also a very keen dancer. But unfortunately, the areas which I was good at, because of conflict and because of so many other issues within Northern Ireland, I never got a platform, to be really flourishing in my work, which I was good at.
Obviously, there were very few ethnic minority people here in Northern Ireland, and I remember being stared at, on the streets, and people, ask you, where did you come from, and all the rest. But I mean, I got used to it, and I fell enough, I think, with the countryside in Northern Ireland, the friendly people, or friendliness of people here in Northern Ireland, and I got a job in the BBC, and so I was quite content with that. But obviously with not many Chinese people, whenever I saw on the street a Chinese person, I would go up and chat with the person and realize how isolated the Chinese community was in those days. And the majority of them came from the rural area of Hong Kong, where there wasn't a lot of formal education, and many of them had very little English when they came over.
So I started to do a little bit of other sort of work, which was again a sort of hobby type of works, like, Indian cookery, Indian culture and all that sort of stuff. And really, tell you the truth, it was very much welcomed. And I remember it was multicultural association in those days, and there was a lady called Fei Ching who was absolutely, she was from Malaysian background, but really believed that there's a lot more to be done for minority ethnic, and especially the women. So that's how my journey started, and I started to teach in women's groups and through Multicultural Resource Centre and all those sort of places. We started to go a lot of areas, and then I started to develop with my own talent of dance and started to teach in Crescent Arts Centre and many other colleges and schools and all that.
So in 1978, I started an English class for Chinese residents in Northern Ireland. And really from then, I began working with the Chinese community, either on the voluntary basis or as an employee in the Chinese Welfare Association. Certainly, their understanding, I think, like many ethnic minorities in Northern Ireland, of politics is very, very little, really. The thing is, if you come from a different country to Northern Ireland and you're not a Christian, and certainly you don't feel you belong to this place. And I think it's still the same in 2021.
So that was it, and I just seen that there was a lot of women who were coming in this country from a lot of different backgrounds, and they were very much isolated. They were just not getting what they wanted to do, but they had talents and they wanted to explore their talents in such a way. So I thought of Arts Sector, basically, and thought that there is a way of bringing these people and integrating them and getting their isolation away from them, because it was impacting their mental health and so many other bits and pieces. So let's do it. And that's how we started our journey. We did a lot of consultation. We did so many other bits and pieces to see whether it is ever going to be successful or not. And that's it. And I don't really look back, and it is now a very successful story. Started with in my back room with £1,500, which was awarded to me as a social entrepreneur by Unlimited. And they loved the product, and the product went places. They invested more, £15,000, and then we got a small room to sort of, have an office space. And that was it. And then the journey started, and today we are 7 members of staff and some part-time in it. And we have 43 different artists who we work with. Yeah, so our outreach for Belfast Mela itself is about 30,000 people who will attend, and that is only one day event. That also not one day, from 12 to 7 p.m. in the evening. But it is the outreach work which we do, you know, and it's the innovative programs which we bring in. And we work with all art forms. It's not just, but our dance, music, visual art is very, very big for us. And it's the theatre, which is my background. We do use theatre, but basically more in the peace and reconciliation work, or maybe more the topic of today, you know, like human rights or refugee and asylum and all those sort of things, you know, today's sort of relevant topics, you know, women's place, gender, and all those sort of things, you know.
I recently, you know, was in Zoom meeting with lots of ethnic minority people, either have been here for a long time or recent comers. You know, people just feel excluded. They find it difficult to join, to find out about politics or to want to participate in politics. And they all understand how important it is to be involved in politics. And so, you know, I think our tribal politics and complex politics turn people off as well. Just people feel that, you know, they don't belong to one side or the other of our political divide. And so that is a barrier to people. But there is also, I think, a lack of trust in our politicians caring about ethnic minority issues. I mean, people talk about the racial equality strategy that's it's supposed to be for 10 years, and 5 years have gone and people haven't seen really any improvement. Each department is supposed to have an action plan, a race champion. You know, we hardly ever heard from any of them except one, who's been very good and absolutely outstanding. But what are the other champions doing? So they really need to, I think all government departments, ministers and all really need to double their action and their willingness to try to gain confidence from ethnic minority people before, you know, you would see more ethnic minority, you know, people coming forward to become politicians or councillors. You know, the police actions of late, like Black Lives Matter, has only made a dent in the confidence of ethnic minority people in the in policing and social justice systems too. We have seen very, very few prosecutions, successful prosecution of hate crime. And obviously people just lose heart and say, well, why should they go and report incidents to the police? Because they don't see any outcome from their reporting. Also, I think our political parties really haven't done very much in going out to understand issues. I think that's what people say. You know, they don't care about us. They don't understand what issues, you know, we're concerned with, you know, like schooling, like bullying in school, ethnic monitoring, bullying in work. And they're saying, well, what are these guys up in the hill doing for us? You know, they're talking about COVID, and ethnic minority people are more likely to contract, to get the virus. And what are they doing? You know, what are they doing to maybe give proper information? I know there are some translation, you know, on website about it, but, you know, are the politicians going specifically to community centres, to community organisations, or even Zoom, using, you know, to ask ethnic minority organizations, communities, how are they doing? Are they getting the right support? So, we can talk about, we need more people to come forward. You need to do the groundwork to gain people's trust that you're really caring about them and wanting to know about them.
There were barriers. There were barriers in any way we went, whether it was education, whether it was, me being brown and coming from a different country, different accent, different, though my English was okay, I can speak good English, and yes, there were barriers. There were still barriers in policy type of work. Nobody wants to listen to people from minority ethnic until you make a big noise. And sometimes you make a big noise and you're heard, but sometimes you're not. You are taken into a different perspective, and they will not sort of want to listen. They're, same old story. So from volunteers to getting artists, to getting to the councils to look into what we do and how we do. There are still barriers in many councils that you cannot reach because they have their way of working. And as I said to you, even at the Stormont level, we are not the citizens who they want to listen on everyday basis. And especially the topic which I have is arts, culture and heritage. Those arts is okay to do it, but in their ways, does arts make a difference? You really, really, really have to go to the bottom of it to make sure that we are heard, we are listened, that arts do make a difference. Arts is not just there for use it, abuse it and throw it. Arts is that you will work through and see the changes in people if you have a right programs and right mechanisms and right way of working. But still, Maurice, there is a huge amount of work which needs to be done at the policy level.
There is a big need for representation to have ethnic minority people into local politics, in councils, as well as up in the assembly. They need a voice. They've been overlooked for many, many years. And there are really many ethnic minority people here who are very capable, who are very interested in wanting to be a part of our political system. And yet, I think there are barriers in there. And I think basically that's the lack of confidence in communities, thinking that they're going to be taken seriously, and the politicians really want them to join as well. Whether is it going to be again like tribal politics, sectarian issues that they do not want to be a part of.
So your advice to the politicians would be to reach out, not to try to involve people from minority ethnic backgrounds or people of other ethnicities and so on in the old orange versus green debate, but to find out from them what they are, what their problems are, which could be addressed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, people really want you to know what they want, what their needs are. And if you can meet that, and at least, do something about it, then, people trust you. That's how people can trust you and want to be part of you or part of any political party. Really, over the years, I really haven't seen many political parties, as far as I know, specifically going out to meet with ethnic minorities or to join their events and go to have maybe 6 monthly meeting to find out how they are getting on. And no, I don't see anything like that.
So that's the politicians need to pull up their socks on that front, perhaps. What would your advice be to perhaps a young aspiring politician from a minority ethnic background in Northern Ireland?
Wanting to, I mean, first thing I think is to register to vote. I know it's legal to register as voters, but I know there are plenty of people who really haven't registered. So first of all, you need to have the ballot box, to get to vote for the politicians who really are on your side, who care about you. So, and I think joining a political party obviously is another step if you want to become a politician and, make your voice known in parties. I know parties are very welcoming, if someone wants to join a new member, particularly from a hard to reach community, they certainly would very much, would bring you in and have some induction and, you can participate. So be active, in the political party then to get yourself known. Then step by step, maybe start from local council level and then up and for the assembly. And it is important. We need to have more ethnic minority voices. If not, their needs are not going to be met.
I still think it is very much a green and orange agenda, very much a white male agenda, and especially women's voices are not to be heard. I personally feel that there is a lot of work still needs to be done, but I am really getting tired now, and I'm just sort of saying 43 years I've banged my head. Yes, I have done what I have done. Maybe I have left a little legacy, but even if I go in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, will I be able to make that change which I really want to see in this part of the world? And that I always question, and I always question in myself that there is no genuine enthusiasm or genuine way of wanting to make a true shared learning, shared hearing, shared spaces and shared listening for people like us. I still feel that, yeah.
So if there was a young Nisha Tandon sitting here in front of you now and about to set off on this journey into the future of Northern Ireland, what would your advice be, and what policies and practices would you want the politicians really to start to embed?
I would like the new generation who will take over, if they have interest in arts, culture and heritage, which I just feel that is also gone, because we are not doing that in the curriculum anymore. We do not have a dance, in our curriculum. We do not have theatre in our curriculum. Music, yes, because we are a land of music and musicians. Theatre, maybe to some respect, but for a younger generation, keep fighting, and please keep fighting till you are really heard. And your voices are really, really, really taken seriously from the policy level to the politicians, to the councillors, to the new upcoming youth and upcoming new people. I don't know who they are going to be, but again, I still feel that there is a lot more needs to be done, where the young people from minority ethnic communities are concerned as well. Because yes, we believe that our children should be at the top in our academic side of things. We are great believers of that, we give them the academics as the top level. You need to be very good in your studies and all that, but you need to do your side activities as well. And those side activities could be dance, drama, public speaking or sports or whatever. But, we are not giving those opportunities for our young people today. I feel that as well. And if we don't do that today, we will not have the future leaders. And we don't want to repeat what my generation and my children's generation have done. I just want that the new generations which are coming, they should be really given the opportunities.
You mentioned the Black Lives Matter protests, and albeit there were problems with the way that was handled, in one sense, it's a sign that there's some sort of a growing sense of confidence. Are you optimistic about that?
Well, I was very heartened to see the Black Lives Matter. But seeing local people with ethnic minority people standing there together side by side with social distance, I found it really, really inspiring and made me hopeful that perhaps a younger generation, younger people seem to be more more leaning towards diversity, valuing diversity, maybe than the older generation who have not mixed maybe or met ethnic minority people or lived in a multicultural society like London and other places in the UK, when our young people maybe had gone to universities in other parts of the world and coming back, and they don't see Black people as something alien. They see them as human beings, as friends, and as individuals. So I think, I am hopeful. I am hopeful now. We are seeing maybe more tourists coming, hopefully with pandemic over, we're beginning to see more diversity in Northern Ireland, more people coming to take on jobs. And I'm so heartened too when seeing on television about interviews of consultants in the NHS and nurses. So many of them are from very different backgrounds. And so, we see that the UK is now really a multi-ethnic society. And it is important Northern Ireland must catch up with it.
Many thanks to Denise Wright, Nisha Tandon and Anna Lowe. Visit our website mmecouncil.org for further details. Watch the series on YouTube or subscribe to the MME Matters podcast on all the main podcast outlets. And follow us on social media at MME Council.